Stephen, reading your story is one thing, but hearing you read it, I think, is another. So thanks so much for going through this process of being able to hear the book in your own words.
You're welcome.
Just digging into some of the content that you've covered so far, thinking about that home environment that you grew up in. Oftentimes I think people think about what a broken home looks like, and for every person it's a little bit different, right? But what did it feel like for you living in a home environment like that, living through that as a child?
One of the things that you learn when you're in an environment like that, where it's a constant state of chaos, violence, drunkenness, drug use, is that you learn not to feel. You learn to never know what it's like to feel love from another individual. You learn what it's like not to love anybody because you don't feel that love coming from anyone. So you're not taught that is a reciprocal, that you are loved and then you return love. You're not taught that in an environment like that. You are just taught survival.
Yeah. But speaking of love, you had love for Chopper, right? Your brother?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Chopper and I were close and continue to be close to this day.
So thinking about the way that Chopper decided to run away, right? And you had to share that news with your aunt and uncle yourself. That's a big responsibility for someone your age at that time, right?
Yeah. What happened there is it shifted the entire focus of the abuse to me. There was no longer, the abuse was no longer split up between my brother and myself. You didn't know when you were going to be the target. But when he left and he ran away, there was only one target left. So it wasn't really too long after that I had to grow up, and I mean grow up fast.
Sure.
That is why I relate that as to why I started selling drugs at such a young age. Because once he ran away, that abuse right there that was focused on me, I knew I've got to get out of this. I have got to get out of this situation.
You felt like he found a way out and you needed to figure out how to get out too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me about him coming back. The relationship was different after you guys picked him back up and he was back in your life, right?
Yeah, something happened to him while he was out there on the road. This wasn't a situation where a young teenager ran away and they were gone for a weekend at their buddy's house. Chopper was gone for a while, and he traveled all across the country like a hobo, essentially. As he told me these stories later on, those were perilous times. But he considered that to be a better life than what we had. And when you talk about that home environment and the chaotic situation, you may have a good day in your home. You may have 2 or 3 good days in your home, but when you are living with somebody that is a violent alcoholic, it can change like that. You can walk in from school after having a good day and somebody punch you and choke you that is an adult. And you don't understand that. You grow up in that and you don't understand what is the cause of this. So for him to move away, to run away like that, he felt like that was a better option. When he came back, when we were able to go retrieve him, we drove from Illinois to California to get him back eventually when we found out he was in California. Things between us had changed. I think mostly because he had grown up so much. Living on the road as a runaway had produced a young man. And so our relationship certainly changed from that point forward.
Did you feel resentment, or what were you feeling when you saw him again, knowing that he left you alone in that situation?
Yeah,
or was it just happy to see him?
Yeah, it was love, man. It was like, okay, my brother's back.
Yeah.
Because I had moments in my childhood, especially when the abuse was really bad. During periods of time when it was really bad, I would have dreams that Chopper and I were handcuffed together. And those were good dreams. So I'm like, okay, I'm handcuffed to my oldest brother here. we're safe.
Protection.
Yeah, protection. So with him coming back into my life, there was that as well. You know, even though we were older and now we were both teenagers, there was that as well. My brother is back. He's coming back with me. Yeah.
So tell me about the narcotics. You talk about that kind of being your path out of the abuse. How connect the dots for us on that, right? Because I think as I listen to you telling the story, you know, having not come from an abusive home, I don't have that point of reference of how that can become a way out.
Yeah. You know, there were examples for me in the area where we lived. There were examples of men that had nice things, that didn't live under that oppressive poverty that we did. I mean, praise God for my aunt, because here she is dealing with a very violent, abusive husband. She's raising 2 boys that are not her own boys, plus she has a child of her own, on a waitress's salary, making $2 an hour. I think back then she was making like $2 an hour, you know what I mean? And that's how we survived for years and years and years. But there were men in our neighborhood that had nice things. And as you're growing up, man, kids are smart. You know, 11, 12, 13 years old, you hear things. Hey, this guy's a cocaine dealer. You know, this guy traffics in marijuana. This is what they do. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to do, because I know if I can do that, I can get out of this.
Got it.
So after Chopper came back, it wasn't all that long after that he ended up getting his own place. Maybe within 2 years, he ends up getting his own place, and he has a girlfriend, and they have that going on. And I was probably, I'd say, almost 15, right around the age of 15. I said, I'm going all in. And I just began right there at the lowest level you could start at. You know, one of the claims of fame that traveled around as almost like a legend about me is that I started a sophisticated marijuana business with $20. And I would take these little joints and I would clip the ends off of them to make them appear to be regular sized joints, but they were so small, my money was so limited. And I would walk up and down these streets in our city and sell that. And I built that up into essentially a small drug empire for a young teenager like that. I mean, I started flying on airplanes to the Mexican border at a pretty young age, and it all started with that.
So oftentimes when I think about what it looks like to deal in narcotics, I think about the movies I've seen, the shows I've watched on TV. How true to life is any of that? I mean, you've lived this. So
yeah,
what is that like being a narcotics dealer?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of it's garbage that you see on TV, movies, music videos, this glamour here, this glamour there. It's garbage, man. Almost everybody out there that's doing it is on drugs. They're battling this thing inside of them. Of course, there's money at the end and everybody wants that, but at the end of the day, when guys get caught, and in the movies you see that this guy's a tough guy and he's a drug trafficker, and this guy's a tough guy and he's a drug trafficker, at the end of the day, they all pile up and tell on each other. And it's a fact. I spent almost 20 years of my life in federal prison, and when it comes to drug cases, I would say 90% of those men told on somebody. So that facade and that acting that they did, where they appeared to be just these gangsters and they've made this music and they're gang. And then you look at their file and they got in there and they told on it. Many times they tell on their own families. You know what I mean? One of the reasons that I got 22 years in federal prison, there were 2 people on my case. In a case as large as mine, you would normally have 20 co-defendants. There were 2 people. My wife and myself.
Yeah, wow. Well, let's pick back up in the story.